Everyone, this is your host, Saeed with Messy Growth. So everyone says they do growth differently. Very few have actually built pipelines that close 6 to 7 figure deals. Today's guest has. Aleksandra Rakowska has built ABM programs at Launchmetrics and Kpler, targeting strategic enterprise accounts where one deal can change your entire quarter. Something I've experienced I want to really dig deeper into. She started in PR communications, moved into growth marketing, and now leads growth at an international level, operating across cultures, of course, across teams, and across revenue functions. She's not optimizing clicks, she's aligning marketing with sales on real revenue. Today, we're going to be breaking down why most ABM programs quietly fail, what sales teams say what they want versus what actually moves deals, what growth looks like when it's tied to a real pipeline, and then, of course, how you scale marketing without hiding behind dashboards. No theory, no vanity metrics, just how enterprise growth actually works. Aleksandra, welcome to Messy Growth.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So upon doing research, I think you're the first guest that went deep into the questions and kind of like, hey, can we structure them in a certain way? I really like that. So I think that this conversation is going to be super helpful for a lot of people, especially for me, considering I think and I speak to a lot of folks about marketing and sales, and I want to help understand folks and myself, of course, how that alignment works. So I want to talk about that with my first question, which is you ran growth marketing for a B2B SaaS, a data company during the day while producing fashion events for Hermès. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And Stella McCartney at night. Looking back at that period, it's just so fascinating considering it's like two very entirely different industries. What did doing both teach you that nobody would expect for the most part, considering how far apart these things are from one another?
Yeah, I think one of the things that perhaps no one would expect is how much these two areas actually have in common. Because if you think about it, the events production for a B2C customer, what you're doing there is you're creating an experience, right? From the first invite that you send to that customer to how it's maybe hand delivered by a butler dressed head to toe in that brand, to a car that picks up the client and gets them to an event, to then, of course, the whole experience that you're creating there and everything that happens after. What you're creating there is an experience and you're following a certain narrative. You're creating a story and you're keeping to it, right? If you think about it, if you had an invite that was very minimalistic, very modern, but then you arrive to the venue and what you have is a very loud, chaotic music, sort of very different vibe to what you received, that wouldn't really be following the same storyline and it wouldn't be creating that narrative that you're sticking to. So it's interesting how I look at it is when it comes to B2B and when it comes to tech, it's very similar, right? Because one of the common misconceptions people have is B2C, you're selling to a customer, and B2B, you're selling to businesses. But the truth is you're still creating that experience for a human being. On the other side of that screen, there's still a person who's making that decision. Of course, they're not making it based on, you know, an impulse decision they make when they purchase. They still have to take some other things into consideration. But for the most part, it is still a human being and it's still that relationship. So one of the things I would say to marketers is don't think of B2B as selling to businesses. Don't over sort of business it in a sense of forgetting that there is a human being on the other side of the story. And then another thing I would say is when you go through that journey, the customer journey in events, right? What I talked about from the invite to how you get to the event to
Right.
the event experience itself is the same thing you're trying to create when you think about the marketing funnel, the digital funnel, from the top of the funnel, mid and bottom. But what you really need to do when creating that customer journey is you have to test it. You have to sit there and go step by step and say, okay, is it following a story that I'm trying to create? Is it a narrative that we're trying to put out there as a brand? Does it all make sense? Just because you have great metrics on an ad that you're running, but then the experience on the website is completely different, it's just not going to click. It's just not going to be the same story. So one thing I would say is really go deep into your funnel, test it, and not only from a perspective of is it in line with a story, but
Right.
is it working? Because one of the things that a lot of marketers forget is your journey doesn't end upon a form submission. One of the really interesting things I did was I decided to test the funnel. So, like I said, I followed all these steps from start to finish up until submitting a demo form. And what you might find really interesting and surprising is your inbound query might get lost in some sort of queue for weeks. Like, it's crazy. I'm telling you, you can do the best job as a marketer, just creating all that experience. You perfected it, to a certain degree, and then nothing happens. Your customer is submitting a form, and
Right.
then it turns out your BD team sort of lost it somewhere, and then a week later they find the lead, they pick it up, they're like, "Oh, hey, you submitted a demo form." It's like at that point I'm already speaking to a competitor. So
Yeah.
one thing that I really want marketers to remember is your job doesn't end at that form submission. You
Right.
have to really test it to its full extent. And another thing that fashion as an industry specifically taught me is understanding scarcity and desire. In fashion, you create desire, but not giving people what they want, by not giving them things immediately. The anticipation is a part of that experience. So, limited seatings, exclusive previews, you earn your way into certain shows. But when I came into B2B tech marketing, what I found was everyone was trying to open everything up, the one click sign up, the no demo required. And as a marketer, I kind of got it because, of course, it's all about the MQLs, the
Yeah.
volume, the more, the better, that's going to grow our pipeline. But I started experimenting with that strategic friction. So what we did was we hosted these small private roundtables with 6 to 8 executives,
Right.
behind closed doors. We also offered these one-to-one strategic workshops that had limited spacing. So we would often even go back to our prospect after offering it and say, hey, actually, you know what? That time is no longer available, but we have this other slot and we only have 2 left. So playing with that scarcity in a more sort of tech environment was really interesting because that's something no one would expect, right? And it
Yeah.
turns out that people really, really want to really want to feel like they're part of something exclusive. Like this is not
100%.
to everyone, It's not another 500 people Zoom webinar when anyone can sign up. It's an easy click. You want to be a part of something that's intimate, that's kind of just private and directed to you. So what I think the the sort of intuition here is it's quite counterintuitive in performance marketing because everyone wants to scale and everyone wants to just focus on that volume. But what what is obvious in fashion is that, Hermes doesn't, make 10,000 Birkins and everyone can have them.
No, they
You
don't.
have quite a lot. And that's exactly why people want it. So what I'd say to marketers is don't be afraid of volumes dropping. Don't obsess over the numbers of leads. Just focus on the conversion rates and that deal sizes and the quality of your pipeline.
There's a few things you said that really stood out. Like FOMO is real. Like even if you have a webinar and it has a limited amount of space, and the more messaging you put out, like a couple of seats left, you feel that you want to be part of that and you don't want to miss out. And the other thing that you said about leads, a marketer's job is just so complicated because, like you said, it just doesn't stop at the form submission. The sales team still has to pick it up, and it's so criminal when leads get they fall through the cracks, but
It's
and they don't
crazy.
convert.
Yeah, I'll tell you, like
Mm.
the number of leads that we find, and then eventually they come back and they say, hey, like I submitted, because what people are forgetting is when you're a part of that research phase, you're not just
Yeah.
submitting a demo to one provider, you're
Oh,
likely
for
going
sure.
to 3 different ones. And then it's that sort of who's gonna respond first. It's like a competition of, okay, well, who's gonna get back first? Who's gonna create a better experience? So if you show up a week later, someone might already be discussing, pricing of another provider.
100%. And it's also because, there might be a lot of vendors out there, but the attention span is still limited. So you're not going to do 6 demos with 6 vendors in one day. If you're doing it one and you're like, crap, it solves 9 out of the 10 problems that I have, like you said, let's just go with it, discuss pricing, and just move on with the POC, or just go ahead and buy it. A week later, you're already out of the game. So speed to lead, I think it's critical, especially in such a competitive market that we have now. It's something that folks or teams should really not be missing out. So it's a
For
point
sure.
well taken. I want to ask you something about on the fashion line of things. You began your career at NPR and communications, then dabbled in events, eventually moving over to, of course, growth marketing, where you work now. Is there something that you had to completely unlearn when you made that transition, or you kind of feel like that there was a pretty much a seamless transition, excuse me, going in?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because when I look back at my time at Launchmetrics, there was a period when I had to do both. So I didn't really move from one to the other. I held two positions. So I was still responding to press inquiries. I was still writing press quotes. Like I was still reporting into our communications director. And then at the same time, I was learning how to do business marketing. I was learning how to do ABM. I was working directly under our CMO and doing that side of the business. So it was really difficult in a sense of what worked on one side, right? Everything PR, that's more brand, emotions, storytelling, that long-term relationship
Right.
building. And then when I had to flip to the business marketing side of things, it was more about the performance, the metrics, optimizations, conversions, pipeline. And I do think that most marketers live in one word or the other, and
Yeah.
I always like to say that the brand people think that performance marketers are these just crazy people, obsessed with numbers, these like robots, soulless, and just,
You're not
what
that
is.
wrong on the first two things.
And then on the flip side, performance marketers think that brand marketers are just, they can't prove ROI. What are they doing? Like, this is just some vanity metrics. So I had to do the same thing in 24 hours period. So I had to flip between the two contexts. But what I think was really helpful was by understanding each side, I was able to sort of master that edge on both sides. So it's about that sort of tension of, there's the performance, but there's also the brands, there's the metrics and emotions, there's conversions and experience. And most marketers are leaving money on the table because they optimize so much for the math, but forgot the magic. So what I was just previously saying in your previous question was, um, it's about that experience that you create. And, you can have the best conversion rates and you can have the lowest CPC. But if you're not creating that story, if you're not making someone feel something, it's not really
Yeah.
what's going to make you win any deals.
100%. You said something interesting in the previous answer was storytelling in marketing. Could you kind of emphasize how important storytelling is in marketing? Is that kind of like 2/3 of the game, or you kind of feel like if you're not a good storyteller, you can still be a good marketer, but you just have to work a little bit harder than most?
Yeah, I don't think you can be a good marketer if you don't know how to tell a story. I think where best marketing teams, how they're built is they have really strong storytellers. They also have really strong performance marketers. You need both. I think without that story is what I was saying before, you will have a very disjointed experience. You
Right.
will see an ad that, targets you because of a specific pain point, then you land on the website and you have a completely different narrative there. And you're sitting there thinking, hey, hold on a second, like, what is this brand about? What is this product about? Because I don't really know anymore. They're saying this thing and then they're flipping to that. So having that consistency and having that one story that you're sticking to, that's really, really important in marketing. And one more thing that I always say is knowing your audience, right? I say it and I said it also in many of my job interviews is you cannot be a good marketer if you don't know your audience. It's true, you can know every single trick, you can know every single channel, how to optimize for it, how to build funnels. But if you don't know who you're doing it for and what these people care about and what channels they spend their time in or what sort of format of content they consume, is it short form, is it long form? You're just not going to succeed.
Essentially, I think at the end of the day, if you don't know who exactly you're targeting or the person you're advertising to, you've literally lost the battle before you've even started. right, for
Yeah.
the most part. So I truly believe that that is critical. I want to talk about, you mentioned ABM briefly. You have built ABM programs at Launchmetrics, at Kpler. What's the one reason you would say most ABM campaigns flop? Because I've seen a lot of companies take a stab at it, but I have yet to see a lot of companies be successful at ABM purely.
I love this question. I think many people struggle with ABM, especially when scaling, because it's easy enough when you're working on 5 to 10 accounts and you're building those personalized experiences for them. Um, I've even gone to the length of, trying to find out what type of wine the CMO that I'm trying to reach is drinking, finding their Instagrams. There's really many links that people go to in ABM when you're trying to really curate that personalized and truly
Sure.
personalized experience. When you talk about scaling and suddenly you have 200 accounts, 500 accounts,
Mm.
many people fall into the bucket of, okay, well, let's just run these ads. We're going to slap their logo on them. We're going to slap their name and we're going to call it a day. And that's true personalization because, it's tailored to them. That's not really the point. I think a lot of marketers are missing the point. And I think more so they're missing it when they think of ABM as marketing. What we did at Launchmetrics, we made a strategic decision to change how we referred to ABM. We called it ABX, so account-based experience. What we were trying to say there was that it's not just a pure marketing play, right? ABM is something that needs to work on a company level. It needs to involve sales, CS, BDRs.
For
Like
sure.
it's such an alignment play. It's not just marketing doing their job. And one of the things that I see a lot of salespeople and they come to me, they're like, hey, I have these accounts. I need you to warm them up for me, and then I can come in. And I always sit there and I think, okay, so you've been trying to reach that account for, God knows how many months, and then you've not been succeeding. So what you're gonna do now is you're gonna throw that on me and hope I can do some magic. But the truth is, if they're not engaging, there might be other reasons for that. And one of the other things why I think ABM programs fail is the account readiness. How are these accounts selected in the first place? Because a lot of times what happens is leadership will throw a list of accounts on you, like I said, maybe accounts that we haven't been able to engage with for quite a while. And now it's back to square one. Let marketing warm them up first, and then we can pick them up. But some of these accounts might not be in the market right now. They might be locked in a 4-year contract of another vendor, and that's why they're just not engaging because they're not looking for a solution. So I think that obsession over, hey, we have a list of 100 accounts, and what we're going to do now is going to really try and focus on hitting all of them, is where a lot of these programs fail.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
what you have to do as an ABM marketer is just not be afraid of walking away even for a while, right? I think a lot of marketers do walk away too quickly. You're not going to engage someone in just one quarter, but it is important that you rotate those accounts. So in Q1, you take a set of accounts that you work on, see if it sticks or not. If they don't stick, maybe you're like, okay, well, we're going to try for another quarter. Or you leave them be, you move to other accounts in Q2, and then you come back when the time is right. They might have a new CMO come in if you're
Sure.
selling a marketing product. So I think that account readiness as well is something that people really underestimate, and that's where most of the programs fail.
You know, following the theme of ABM slash sales and marketing collaborating together, when you're targeting strategic accounts worth 6, 7 figures, what's the one thing sales teams say they want from marketing versus what actually moves deals forward in your experience?
Yeah, and so I will go back to my favorite, like, we just won marketing air cover. And to this day, I tell you, I do not know what they mean. I have no idea when these words reach my desk. And I just really truly believe that what moves deals is that close alignment, is creating that one narrative, is creating that one experience for that account and really hitting it from all or angles, right? We have marketing, we have BDRs, we have account managers, we have CS. We have senior stakeholders that are engaging with senior stakeholders at that company. You have to go all in and you have to go in as one team. And that really is what moves deals forward.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think this is why sales and marketing alignment needs to be critical because communication is key. And if you are going after certain accounts, then it would help quite a lot if one department knows from the other what exactly the expectation is. It just makes things a lot more easier and flows things better, for the most part. Um, so talk to me about head of growth marketing. You became head of growth marketing in January of 2025. What's the one thing you're doing differently as a manager that you swore you'd never do when you were an IC or an individual contributor?
Oh, my team is gonna love this if you're
Please
listening.
put it out there.
So one thing I swore I would never do as an IC was constantly shift priorities of my team.
Oh,
And I think it's quite a painful one, right? Because I am doing exactly that. And when I was an individual contributor, really nothing frustrated me more than me spending 2 weeks on building something out and then my boss coming in and saying, drop that, we need to pivot to this other thing. And all that was going through my head was, well, can't we just stick to the plan for once? Like, can't we just have this strategy, follow it? Like, surely that's going to generate better results. So I remember I promised myself then, when I become a leader, I'm going to give my team stability. We will set quarterly targets and we will actually stick to them. And then I became head of growth and I realized how naive that was. And here's what I didn't see as an individual contributor. It was all that my boss was protecting me from. There's a lot of conversations that happen at a certain level that all good leaders try to protect their teams from. It's it's just something I couldn't grasp as an individual contributor because my boss was really protecting me from that so that I could stay focused on the work. So turns out she was actually really doing a good job at that because I did not know about all the mess and all the chaos that was happening. And I didn't know about the 10 different conversations that she had where she had to push back, where she tried to fight for the team and tried to fight for the goals that we have, and all the fires that she was trying to put out just so that I could stay focused. So now I'm in that role and I get it. I do try to do things a little bit differently where I still protect my team from all that chaos that they don't need to be a part of. But I do try to offer that transparency. And as much as I can share some of the information of why that direction is changing, I will do that because I think it helps. I think it helps people stay motivated because there's nothing worse than, like I said, you're working on something and then your boss is like, drop this, we're going to do something else. So I not only do I try and share as much as I can why the reason for that shift is, but also I try to come back to those things, right? So if
yeah.
we had something because there was a shift in direction, I always try to be like, right, you did a really good job here. Let's come back to this. Let's revisit it. And I try to do that as much as the time allows.
I think shifting priorities is one of the main motivation killers for a lot of folks because they're head down. They've probably done a lot of planning. They've strategized in terms of what they need to do. And then, a week later you come in and say, well, stop that. Let's go and do other things. That really killed a lot of motivation. I fully understand that. But it also kind of like reminds me of one thing, which is you don't know what you don't know. So like when somebody's doing it and you're your manager, you're like, God damn, why is that? But when you're in that position, it's easy to judge, but there is a lot, like, so you need to shelter and protect your team and to make sure they're not getting demoralized. There's a lot that goes into being a manager, especially a good manager. There's just a lot of things that you need to feel. So, um,
Yeah, I
fully,
think what it taught me is to just have grace and to have some understanding. And like you said, accept that you don't know what you don't know, what someone might be protecting you from. And sometimes it's better, it's sometimes you might not want to be a part of it. It's hard, right? It's really hard at Section 11 where you have also your opinion as a professional and you know what are the steps that need to be taken. But there's other stakeholders above you that are like, no, I want us to do this. And there's a certain fight you can put up, but at some point you might just need to accept it and
yeah,
do some of these things. So for sure that
yeah.
that can be frustrating, but I think learning to just be a bit more understanding and accepting that you don't know everything is what's going to help you, save you some internal peace.
It's the worst type of role too. Like if you look at it in a cynical way, which is you have to answer to the top, which is the C-level exec team or anybody that is your boss essentially. And you also have to make sure your team is happy. So they gripe upwards, but you cannot gripe upwards over to your boss, and you're stuck in that loop of taking crap from there and taking crap down here. So it's a tricky role. It really truly is.
Yeah, give me some, give me some grace.
There you go. So you're Polish, you're based out of London, working for international companies. How much of your career velocity came from being comfortable operating across cultures versus just being very good at marketing? These are two different skill sets.
Yeah, I think similarly as in marketing, where you really need to know your audience, which is something that we spoke about just a second ago. You really need to know who you're working with, who your colleagues are, and how to operate in that sort of market. So if you think about a campaign that you're doing to a market in Japan, for example, you're going to treat that very differently, and there's a very different story that you're trying to tell there, using a very different language, approaching it
Yeah.
through different channels than you are doing that if you're targeting someone in Italy. And I think one of the biggest success sort of drivers outside of the skills when it comes to working in international companies is knowing
Mhm.
how to approach different teams and how to have that cultural relevance. One of the things that I remember from my early career, it was, or I was living in London at that time for quite a few years at that point. Um, and I felt like I adapted quite well. I had colleagues from different regions, those who were not British, but I was British because I was based in London. I spoke good English. That association was there. And I remember one of the first performance reviews and the feedback that I received, which was that I come off a little bit too intimidating, that I'm too direct, that I asked maybe too many questions. And I sat there and I was self-reflecting and I was like, okay, well, I definitely take that on, right? There could be something there. But what I was just curious. And what I was truly just probably a little bit Polish in that, right? Like,
Yeah, we are direct.
yeah, you are known for being direct. We're known for being blunt. Like, as much as I tried to cover it up, and as much as, I can strike up a conversation about British weather, which, is an easy one because it just always rains. But it just shocked me that that was how it was coming off because people associated me with maybe more of a British culture. And while it was quite easy for us to grasp that perhaps French people are a certain way or Italians, like me, I was thrown into the bucket of the British, and in that regard, I was too direct and I was too um too blunt. So I remember I did bring it up, not as an excuse, of course, because I think every feedback should be taken on board. But I was like, hold on a second, right? Like I am Polish. You're forgetting as well that we are working in an international environment and we have to be accepting of different cultures. And again, I think, there's a certain acumen that you need to have to know how you're going to like tailor yourself, mold yourself a little bit when speaking with different cultures, with different
Yeah.
stakeholders. So I do think that's one of the very important drivers of success when working in international companies.
And that hit me. You hit the nail on the head when it comes to bluntness and being direct as a Pole. Uh, I don't think folks understand and realize how direct we don't answer to how are you. There is no such thing as like to
No, and
nominate. Like,
I try so hard, me like putting this smile on. I'm kidding, but like it takes a certain level of effort for us Poles. So please, please.
it is painful. Like, at this point, it's strange because when I call, like you go in and folks say, hey, all right, it takes me a minute, like a hot minute to try to connect with folks and understand that they're just being polite. Or as if somebody asks, us, like, how are you doing in Poland? You might as just, kill their whole family. Like, why are you asking me that? You know, it is
But
such a strange thing. I love it though.
yeah,
We are miserable in our own way, which is what makes
we
us
are
unique.
exactly that. And I love it.
Um, Come back to you've probably noticed this quite a lot. There's a lot of tools out there. Every marketing team, sales team, just about every team in a tech company has a massive tech stack. They have different tools. I'm just curious if you were to kind of like zoom out a little bit or just go to a 30,000 feet overview. If you had to kill, say, 70% of a typical B2B SaaS marketing tech stack tomorrow, what would you keep and what would you burn first just to keep it a lean running machine?
Mm, I love this question because one thing that I observed in the recent years is this over reliance on tools and tech stack. I think every single day marketers are being sort of corrupted to buying the new tool that's going to solve this problem. And every single one of these tools and software promises you that it will make your life easier.
Yeah.
It will, improve your efficiency and streamline your work. And if you just keep adding tools without adjusting the processes and without training the teams and without really building that tool into your day-to-day, all you're doing is you're creating more work and more chaos. So if I had to kill 70% of tech stack tomorrow, I would burn, first of all, the intent data tools. And I'm
Mm.
sorry, I said it, it might be controversial, but really, I don't get the obsession. And I say this as an ABM marketer as well, and this is something that a lot of the ABM marketers use, but like real intent, yes, for sure. That's 100% helpful when you're picking up signals. But most of the tools on the market, what they sell you is this sort of manufactured intent based on keyword research, on topic clusters. And I think the worst part is that your competitors have access to the same tools. So when you get pinged that company A is now researching the specific
Yeah.
solution, they typed in that keyword, be sure all of your competitors using that software get pinged too. So what that causes then is the company A that you're trying to prospect is now receiving, 50 other emails from providers that are selling a similar product to yours because there's an intent there. They're in market, picking up the
Yeah.
signal. And I think that's really one thing that just isn't working. It's just not working. Like I said, in real intent, how long someone may spend on your website, have they attended a webinar, how they're engaging with you. That's helpful information, but that intent based on keywords is just not something that I think is needed. Now, the second thing I would kill is multiple analytics platforms. I think marketing attribution is hard as it is, and we don't need
Oh yeah.
50 ways of looking at it, right? Like, if you think about it, it's one of the toughest things in marketing is attribution, is understanding, okay, how much value are we generating? How much are we contributing to pipeline? If you start introducing all these tools that promise you, data-driven attribution, I'm not saying it's wrong. I think that is definitely a model that you should be using. But if you start implementing too many ways of looking at it, you're just going to be confused, right? So pick one platform, stick to it, set it up properly, and just avoid the confusion. I think next in line would be AI chatbots. And I don't know how you feel about this, but nothing pisses me off more than that ping and that chatbot that just shows up in the corner of the landing page that you're on. I just think it's so overdone. I think it's so impersonal. And I know a lot of marketers who told me, no, this is one of the best ways that we generated leads. It's one of the easiest ways, and maybe it works, maybe it works for certain industries or certain type of companies. But to me, I think in a world where everything is so automated, and we talk about AI, and we can talk about AI in a second as well, but that really human to human interaction is what people want. I think in 10 years time or even less, in maybe 3 years time, the most valuable thing on the market will be a human to human interaction. You're going to want to pay to talk to a person, you
Yeah.
know. I remember the other day I was trying to call like HMRC. And I was trying to solve a problem of some of the tax query I had, and I could not get through to a person. I had to talk to this bot on the phone, and it asked me these questions. And I said what I wanted to talk about. Or like, oh, you can solve this on our website. Just go to that. And I'm like, no, no, no. I really want to speak to
Yeah.
someone, and it hung up on me because that's how it was created. So I think, yeah, one of the things I would say is chatbots can work in certain situations, in certain scenarios, but it's definitely not something I would keep. What I would keep, on the other hand, is your CRM and your marketing automation. I think that goes without saying. You need it. This is your system. This
Yeah.
is where everything lives. Everything flows through there. So pick the right one. Pick the one that really talks to your needs, and just use that. The second thing I'd keep would be analytics. So like a GA4, your HubSpot or Salesforce dashboards, just have one, set it up. Like I said, you don't need 10,000 different ones. And I would keep the ad platforms, so the native ones.
Sure.
There's data in there. I don't think you need another fancy solution that's trying to consolidate, all of your ads. Every platform is different, and every platform will require a different strategy anyway. So you're not really saving much by trying to add another solution that like pulls it all together.
Yeah, it's interesting you said it's something you made the comment about human to human interaction. It's going to be more sought after, so to speak, in a few years. And I think it's partially due to the fact that we just came out of a pandemic not too long. I mean, if you think about it, pandemic wasn't too long ago. I mean, in the span of years, it just feels like it was a decade ago. And at that time, we were deprived quite a lot in terms of human interactions. Folks weren't able to party, weren't able to go out, go to pubs, what have you, right? So there was already that gap of about a year and a half, two, where folks didn't interact much, even with families. And then we came into this EI boom, which happened a couple of years ago, and that already started to bring in LLMs to the mainstream, chatbots, as you say. So we haven't really recovered from that trauma, so to speak, as a species just yet. And now we're diving into this where a lot of the interactions are, like you say, you're calling, trying to deal with taxes, and you're dealing with a bot. It's going to exacerbate the problem more and more to the point where any company, even marketing or sales team that are able to put themselves out there and not a bot, are going to win a lot of the business because of the fact that people can say, well, crap, they have a question, even if it's one question a year, at least I have somebody that I can go to talk to and not have to fill out a form or, so pre-select options. Is it a billing thing? Is it you have a product question? I think that really will set people apart. I'm not saying it is the strategy for sales and marketing, but it certainly could be part of the strategy just to make sure that you have that human touch in there,
Yeah,
to just
I
differ.
think it will be. And going back to those ABM experiences, right? Like when you're doing it on a one-to-one scale, when you have 10 accounts, you can really put that human touch in there. You can do a bit of research. You can really create that experience. When you're looking at 500, now what you're doing is you're inserting variables and calling it
Yeah.
personalization.
Yeah, 100%. I want to talk about, based on that, like kind of feel like chatbots are the new thing. So a lot of folks are doing it. It is a strategy that looks great in pitch decks. Is there a strategy that looks brilliant in pitch decks but collapses the moment it meets a real pipeline target specifically?
Yeah, I think it's the traditional marketing funnel, to be honest. As marketers, we are taught that our customer goes through the simple journey of awareness, consideration, conversion, and then loyalty. And I think many marketers follow that when building out their strategy. But the truth is, you have no idea where in that journey your prospect or your customer is. Because, yes, you can have the intent data and you can have the engagement score, but you start collecting it at a certain point, right? So maybe someone downloads a white paper, right? So are
Sure.
they a curious intern who's exploring solutions? So that's more like top of funnel, but the wrong fit. Are they a VP that's been evaluating you for 3 months and they're just now looking for that extra ammunition so they can build out a business case? That's bottom of funnel, but that's disguised as top of funnel because it's the first time
Right.
someone entered your funnel and they filled that form. Or is it, a competitor doing research? So that's outside of your funnel at all. But the problem is when marketers treat them all the same. So what you do when someone hits that is you send them a 9-step email nurture campaign with benefits of whatever the category is, right? So when one person needs pricing, that BP, one person needs, just research, and the other person just really needs to be left alone. So I think this is one of the problems with what good looks on paper and what looks good when you're
Yeah.
presenting strategy to senior stakeholders versus the real customer journey, which is it's messy, right? It's not that traditional funnel. So
No, it's not.
I would say really consider that, and consider that a lot of the deals happen just because someone got on the phone or met someone at a networking event and had that real conversation, not because you engineered a perfect 9-step funnel and called it a day.
Yeah, yeah, it's very underrated what you're saying right now. Just a lot of the deals are just happening, like getting on the phone, meeting at an event, and just snowballs from there. It just you cannot match that energy through the email campaign that 100 different vendors are sending out. Well, on that topic, how do you personally decide when a campaign deserves more budget versus when it deserves to be killed, even if it looks promising?
Yeah, I think that's one of the downfalls of trying to put the math everywhere, right? I think when it comes to especially paid or performance marketing, people really focus on cost efficiency. So some marketers would come to me and say, our CPM has been the lowest ever, or that volume of MQLs is increasing. And
Sure.
that to me means nothing without the full picture, because I personally have killed campaigns that had great MQL volumes, but
Yeah.
those leads were just not converting. And I think it's really painful for me to see. We're teaching marketers to optimize for MQLs. This is the KPIs that we give them. We're like, the more MQLs, the better. And that's what they're optimizing for. But if you're not looking at what I said before, what happens afterwards, how are those leads converting, what pipeline is generating, why they're not closing, you're only seeing a part of the picture. So what you have to do is look at, okay, if it's not converting, why? What's the objection reason? Do people not have budgets? Or maybe, just maybe, we we messed up the messaging, and maybe we're selling something that we actually don't sell, that the product actually doesn't do. Or maybe there's also a problem of the product is just not ready yet and it should have stayed in beta, and we just need to go back to square one and stop pushing it. So I think it's a very big disadvantage that we create for marketers when we give them their little box that they need to focus on, and we isolate them from the rest of the business and the rest of the strategy, and everyone is working in silo.
Yeah. Is there a trend in growth marketing right now that you think people will be embarrassed in a few years' time?
Oh, yes. I think this goes back to the personalization that we were just talking about. Um, if I see another email with this, hey, company name, I noticed company name is in industry. And, we thought you might be interested in, whatever, how we help industries and companies, like insert competitor name. I think I will scream, because what people think is like, this is personalization, right? This is what we're doing. We're sending these variables, or, like, oh, I think that the one thing that I cannot comprehend is those more custom outreach solutions that we see now of, there's an AI bot that will read this person's LinkedIn, they'll scrap all that data
Right.
and it will make it more personalized. Like, hey, Sarah, I saw you recently posted about, growth marketing challenges. I loved your take on this. Like, no, you didn't read it. You didn't love my take. Your AI just wrote this. By the way, we help companies like Kpler do XYZ. And I think this is one thing that people will be embarrassed about when they look back, is everyone thinks they've mastered cold outbound with all these variables, but everyone can see through it. Everyone gets a ton of these emails every single day. So what I think is the best is a better way of looking at it, is just really nail down your offering, nail down the problem that the people you're trying to reach have, and how you're going to solve it. And I would rather receive an email that's not personalized to me at all, but really talks to my pain point and offers a solution, and I'll reply to that rather than someone, saying congrats on your promotion that happened a year ago. Like, really?
Yeah. Minus the antics. I mean, they're just not necessary. Deliver your message. If it's good, I will respond to it, right?
Yeah.
And you go from there. I have a question regarding marketing, since your bullshit radar probably is a lot better than mine, considering I don't know marketing well enough. But when I open up LinkedIn, I see quite a lot, at least recently, with the invention of these Claude bots and whatnot. Folks have these courses and Notion docs where they're asking people or telling that, hey, we have eliminated whole SDR teams and BDR teams because we have now set up an AI agent that books 60 meetings a week and so on and so forth. Is there truth in that? I'm not saying those folks are lying. I'm just saying, is that a lot of marketing talk, or is it really the fact that these people have cracked the code and these numbers are indeed numbers that are backed, or you feel like that everybody could get success from it?
I think there's some truth in that. I think there's certain things that can be automated, and there's certain things that you don't need a 30 people BD team to do.
Sure.
Some of these things, like I mentioned before, if you're not following up on a lead in a timely manner, you're going to lose them to a competition. So one thing that you might want to do is set up an automation where once someone books that demo, fills out the form, what pops up is a calendar, and they can book that meeting on the BD's reps calendar directly. So what you're doing there is you're removing that friction of, okay, I have to wait for someone to call me back and then book a meeting and then sit in a meeting that I know is just, a discovery call. And by the time I see the product, I have to wait to another call. It's crazy, right? So I think there is some truth to that. You can optimize it. You can automate it. You can have these AI bots that do it, but on the premise of they're just like your little helper on the side. And then they set things up for you. They're like your PA. And then you still have a conversation with a real human being. Can they do outbound? I think they can. I think a lot of people are worried, especially seeing how a lot of these LLMs hallucinate. They're like, I don't really want to deploy this. What if they write some weird things to my prospects?
Possible. They do hallucinate.
They do, right? But then I always think about, some of the BDRs that get hired quite early in their career, and that framework that they're following now, which is what we just discussed, of like insert variable, do this. If you think about it, if that's the outbound that they're doing, it's not much different to what the AI bot can do. So in that sense, I think there's some truth to it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole new different conversation about if you're not going to have folks coming in the entry level positions, 6, 7 years from now, you're not going to have managers. Or I fully understand that part. I mean, AI has a role to play in it, and I guess we'll have to sit back, relax, and see where it takes us. But fully valid points that you're making. I want to ask you one last question before we head into a rapid fire round, Alex. If you joined a Series B company tomorrow and you were meant for running paid ads, let's say for 6 months, what would you do instead?
I was banned from running ads for 6 months. Uh, Wow, I think that would be my dream.
Like you, right?
Please. No, honestly, I think people have such over reliance on ads, and they can perfectly curate the audience, reach the exact people they want. They know how much they're spending, but really there's so many other channels and so many other ways to go about it. So one thing I would double down on would be the LinkedIn organic presence, but of the CEO or of the founder, of the stakeholders. I think people really underestimate the power of a strong voice on social media that isn't the brand. Like we said, people want the story, people want to feel a part of something, and people resonate with founders who have that short story, who have that reason for creating a product or a service. And so I would really double down on that organic presence across the different social media channels, not just the founder, some other stakeholders at the company. And you'll see, and I'm sure you being in that space yourself, you can see how quick sometimes LinkedIn can pick up, and we have all these people have been successful overnight. The Other thing I would say is AEO or GEO, however people say. People use different naming conventions for that. So either answer engine optimization or, gen engine optimization.
Yeah.
A lot of people say SEO is dead. I don't think
Oh,
it's dead. I think it's redefined, right? You can tell me it's like what you think about it or what other marketers say. But, you know, I think we have this amazing opportunity right now because what took a really long time, it could have taken 6 months when we talk about traditional SEO. Now with AEO, it can take a day, right? Like that content that you create today can be picked up by an LLM tomorrow and take you to the top of that list in competitor research. So I think it's really interesting. If I was going to rely on a channel, it would be that. Like I said, it doesn't take that long as it used to. It really, really is picking up right now. Everyone is talking about it. I would be curious to see, like, yeah, what other marketers say if you discuss that
yeah,
topic with anyone.
yeah, yeah. I think I was speaking to somebody and I really liked their answer to SEO being dead. And the SEO is not dead, but lazy SEO is dead. Similar to what
Mm.
AI did is that AI didn't kill sales. It just killed lazy sales. Similar to how you said the variables you put in. So if you're doing that, you're dead in the water. If you're not utilizing the tools you have at your disposal, right? What actually died in terms of SEO is if you're just writing a 1,500 words blog post stuffed with keywords,
Yeah.
that's not going to fly. Rankings with some sort of weak backlink spam, it's not going to fly. Publishing generic bullshit, which is what is X content, it's not going to work. Hoping Google, traffic alone builds a business. If you're looking to start that, it's not going to do that. So what AI has done, which is a mixture of what we talk about SEO, is just it has destroyed low effort content, which is great. I mean, that puts us in a point where good content would shine. Like you said, LinkedIn can pick it up, social can pick it up. That shines through. Which also on the flip side, it will penalize hard if you have garbage content that you're going to go ahead and deliver out, and you're going to let that Claude bot or whatever write that for you. That's just not going to work anymore. And I think that's part of the positive because a lot of folks, they can detect AI slop. We are better for it. It's just it's market is redefining itself, and we'll see when the dust settles where we stand. But SEO being dead, I don't know. I mean, Google, that's a huge business, advertisement. And on top of it, their search results didn't get killed over just because ChatGPT came out. So remains to be seen, but that's just kind of like my 2 cents of a guy who doesn't know anything about marketing perspective.
No, I think you're right there.
Oh, I want to head into a rapid fire round. It's quick questions, quick answers. This has been great conversation. It's always crazy to shift that over into something fun. But what's the best advice you've ever received, business or personal?
Just just get over yourself. Really
Mm.
get over yourself and stop obsessing over what other people think and how you're going to come off. And, not everything in the world is about you, and it really isn't. And I think a lot of people try and be the best version of themselves and try and push for greatness. And I think that's great. And you should definitely be doing that. But just don't obsess too much over those little things.
It's something you should tell my team members that I don't wake up and think about you. Like
Yeah,
I have other crap to deal with. It's not like I'm
exactly.
thinking about Alex. What am I gonna like, dude? I got other shit to deal with for the
People
most part.
obsess over, like YouTube comments and, you know, it's someone's gonna write that. And then a second later, they're gonna keep scrolling. They're gonna move on with their day. They don't think about you as much as you think about yourself. So yeah, just get over yourself.
So this is perfect advice. On the flip side, advice you ignored or wish you had listened to.
Well, probably the same advice.
So it's not
I'll leave it at
applicable
that.
just yet. You're a feeling of that. No, I get it. I
Work
fully
in
understand.
progress.
Work in progress. I think that's all that's all we are, right? At the end of the day, it's always a work in progress. Just goalpost continues to move, and that's a good thing. That means there is improvement, there's progress, for the
100%.
most part. What would you tell your younger self, say 7 to 10 years ago?
Mm. I think I would tell my younger self to just keep pushing and keep going. Earlier in my career, I had this massive fear of failure, and I think a lot of professionals have that, right? You're trying to constantly prove that you're good enough, that you're doing enough, that you're smart enough, that you deserve these roles and positions in that career. But if you don't fail, you're not going to learn much. People learn so much more from failures than they do from success. And if you think about successful founders, like they had 7 startups that failed by the 8th that really kicked off. So I really would have told myself, just don't be afraid to fail.
Just take risks. Birkin bags worth it?
I don't own one, so I will leave it at
Me
that.
neither. The price tags on those, God, you could buy a Bugatti. The price tags. Is there an ongoing challenge at your work that keeps you up at night?
I think what keeps me up at night is what keeps every marketer up at night, which is attribution. It's that constantly trying to prove that the work of you and your team is contributing to the wider business objective, right? Because
Yeah.
we know we work hard. We know that we spent hours and hours trying to grow the business, but it's that attribution of like, was it
And moving
us?
the needle.
Sales? So was it CS? Is it moving the needle? And like choosing that one model that is working for you, that's really hard.
Cool. Your favorite restaurant, meal, or spot in Poland? Because I know you ship between London and Wrocław. London is a culinary heaven, so I'm not even going to go there. But what about Poland?
Oh, you know what? I have a whole list of places. What I do is every time I go somewhere, I save it in my Google Maps. So
Oh, there you go.
that's my way of doing it. But favorite one, and this is where I would need to pick my phone and see because oh,
Let's make it easier. Nando's, a yes or a no?
oh, it's a no. It's a no.
I'm going to
Sorry.
scrub the whole interview based on that answer. Oh, my Lord. Okay, Nando's no. So what else? Oh, yeah. In terms of semi-fast-ish food type place, let's just say, in London.
Oh my gosh. You're just putting me on the spot. I have no idea. Maybe you can make a recommendation for a restaurant.
Shake Shack. I don't know. I mean, now
Oh, love Shake Shack. Could die for a Shake
Five
Shack.
Guys. Yeah, I think they're pretty good too.
Oh, no, never Five Guys. I'm sorry. I don't get the obsession.
Really? Have you never
don't.
had a double?
Well, the funny thing is I was a vegetarian for like 17 years of my life. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, these places I don't feel like I
Yeah.
had a full experience in. Maybe that's my my chance to go back and really now try.
And those.
Just for you. Just for you.
And one last question. Alex, is there a tool or a process that you swear by and you can't live without?
I wanna say Notion. Everyone who knows me,
Well,
they know
it's a cult.
it's a cult, isn't it? They've
Yeah.
done it.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. Like my whole life
Yeah.
lives in Notion. My whole like annual planning, all my information about my friends. This is the type of stockish behavior I was talking about with ABM is like everything I know I have in Notion and I swear by it.
You better not lose the password.
Right? That would be interesting.
Alex, has been a great conversation. I really appreciate it. Where can listeners find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. I always tell people, don't be afraid to reach out. Obviously, have something to say, but I think we don't talk to each other enough, and I think these conversations should happen not
Yeah.
just on screens like we did today. And I
Yeah.
think, and I hope it was valuable, but I think people should just talk to each other. Just put that time in. You know, you're not just giving something. You're exchanging ideas. You can use someone as your sounding board. So. Yeah, find me on LinkedIn and let's talk.
Any upcoming project, launch, talk, event that you're excited about?
Oh, I have one, but I can't say just yet. But I will be definitely posting about it on LinkedIn in the coming few weeks. So
There you go. There you go. Well, Alex, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you coming on. Folks, if you got value out of this, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.